bit about myself, what I did for a living, how I got to where I was going. We'll talk about Operation Red Wing for a little bit. There's a lot of books and movies and stuff out about that particular day. So I try and touch on some of the stuff that didn't make it into all of that, all right? And then I'll get on about my way. Sound good? I'm not a motivational speaker by the natural definition of the word. I mean, I'm not here to sell you a book or a t-shirt. I don't know if I'm here to change your life. Basically, I'll get up here, I'll kind of give you an insight into my life, and if you take something away from it, then I'm glad I could help you. If you don't, then sorry. Basically what happens when people bring me in is to put a perspective on what a bad day really is, okay? And how you can get through it. Because I'll be the first person to tell you, I was never the best at anything growing up, all right? I wasn't the strongest, I wasn't the fastest, the smartest guy. I wasn't the weakest link in the chain, but I wasn't the strongest link in the chain. I was just a link, all right? Individual kind of sports and stuff like that didn't really appeal to me. I have an identical twin brother. He's actually 7 minutes older than me, so he's the older brother. Any twins in here, you'll know what I'm talking about. I mean, he's the dominant. He's actually the alpha of the two of us. I mean, even today, he still opens his presents before I do, and he makes this, it's a little weird, but his whole philosophy on everything is, back in the day, he'd have been king, right? So he comes up with all these great ideas, and the way it worked is I usually had to go first. And if I made it through there with little to no damage, then it was a great idea. If I came out of there missing some blood and dragging a leg and stuff like that, then he's like, well, we need to rethink this. So think about that growing up. Just to back it up a little bit, I'm a Texas boy, 5th generation, man, proud of it. I mean, old Red River runs in my veins, man. So it's customary in my family for all the men to serve in the military, all right, generations back. You didn't have to serve in any particular branch of the military, you just had to give service. I heard my granddaddy say this while I was on the porch with him, and then my father would say it as well. He'd always say, before you exploit this country, son, you're going to serve her in some form or fashion. I didn't have any idea what that meant when I was a boy. Obviously now, being a grown man, I understand what that means. Back then, no idea. So the way it happened was, the way I became, or got the idea to become a Navy SEAL, was my brother came running down to the barn. I was down there feeding the horses. He's like, hey, I know what we're going to do, man. We're going to be Navy SEALs. It's going to be great. We get to jump out of airplanes, shoot guns, blow stuff up, and there's a 50% chance we're going to die. And I was like, sign me up. Because my brother and I have a couple sayings. One's from the womb to the tomb. We came into this world together, and we're going to leave it together. My brother and I are absolutely inseparable. My father made sure of that. He would always tell us, he's like, hey, look, your mother and I are going to be here much longer, all right? Women will come and go, your friends will come and go, your brother will be here for you no matter what. You can always count on him. So, to give you a little background on my father, we weren't friends, okay? My father and I did not hang out. Matter of fact, when I addressed him proper. It was father or sir, usually sir. And he made it real clear to my brother and I as we were growing up, he's like, look, I don't owe you anything, all right? I brought you into this world, you're welcome. And he goes, I'm going to put a roof on your head, over your head, a shirt on your back, and food in your belly. He goes, look, your whole life, as you grow up from a boy into a man, I'm going to give you discipline every day of your life. And through discipline, you're going to gain respect. Respect for yourself and respect for other people. The only time you'll ever lose your respect is when you lose your discipline. You're the only one that can throw that away. You know, my family, discipline hurt, man. They're one of them old school kind of families. They come home at the end of the day, he toss us a whooping. He's like, I know you did something. Just because I didn't catch you doesn't mean you didn't do it. You're going to pay. So he would always tell us, like, hey, look, my shoes are here for you to walk in every now and again if you stumble. They're not here for you to fill. Because as men and women, we all fall. That's the beauty about being human. That's what makes you better than the guy next to you, is when you fall, is whether or not you're going to get back up. People who don't get back up, I mean, I don't understand it. All you got to do is lace up your boots a little bit tighter and shake it off and go as hard in the paint as you possibly can. Because life's real short. I was fortunate enough in my life, there's an old saying, it's a Texas deal or a Southern deal, he goes, a good man will raise his son, a great man will help raise others. I was fortunate enough in my life to have that. There's 4 or 5 men in my life that every day gave me the knowledge and the wherewithal, the integrity, so that I could develop my own honor to be the man that I was destined to become. Because I never isolated myself just to hanging out with one group or one class of people. I stole as much knowledge as I possibly could from everybody around me. So the way we got into this whole SEAL program, like I said, I was down the barn feeding the horses. Morton came running down there. He's like, hey, we're going to be Navy SEALs. And I was like, all right, great. And down the way from us was a guy who trained people to go into the Special Forces. Those of you in small towns, you'll appreciate this one. He was our town psychopath. You know, every town has one of them. He's like, he's the guy that wear the sweatpants in the wintertime, or the summertime, and the shorts in the wintertime, the rubber boots that didn't match. So that was him. Billy Shelton was his name. And he had an impeccable record of training boys into men to go into the Special Forces. Now, it wasn't a regimental schoolhouse. You didn't pay money. You didn't sign any waivers. There was no desks or anything like that. You just showed up and you put out. And if you stuck it out, ordinarily you'd make it where you want to go. To date, he has multiple SEALs, multiple Green Berets, Rangers, Marines, all across the board. So we showed up over there to ask him to train us. I'll never forget it. Our father took us over there, dropped us off, caught him during dinner time. He had a piece of fried chicken in his hand. He's like, what do you want? And he was a giant of a man to me back then. I actually didn't start growing until I was in my 20s. Tried checking into college, being like that. I mean, I graduated, I found my driver's license the other day, and when I was 18, I was 5'6", 154 pounds. So, I always ran on that whole concept that dynamite runs in small packages. But I just didn't have the body for it, I always had the mind for it. Well, we were like, sir, we want to be Navy SEALs. We heard you train people to do that. We just wondered if you would train us. He looked at us like 4:30 tomorrow, and he slammed the door in our face. So we backed down there, and the next day we come running up at 4:30, hauling the mail. And he was waiting on us. And as we were running to the yard, you saw him. He was pointing at us and at his watch and at the ground, at us, at the watch. And as soon as we got to the yard, you realized the only thing coming out of his mouth was profanity. That was it. I mean, he was cussing us up one side and down the other. You can use your imagination. I don't use profanity in front of women, but I've been a SEAL for almost 18 years, and I still hadn't been cussed like that. And he stopped us dead in the street. He took his boot heel and he drew a line in the dirt right in front of us. He's like, every day you come here, I'm going to draw a line in front of you and ask you to cross it. Being in the Special Forces, a voluntary program, you can quit anytime you want. Quit right now. You should quit right now. You quit while I'm training you, quit while you're going through SEAL training as a Navy SEAL in combat. You don't want to do that job anymore, you raise your hand, you say it's over, I'm done. And that's the truth. He said, you cross this line, I'm going to do everything I can to break you. I'm going to beat you, mentally, physically, and emotionally. He's like, you're going to suffer here. I ain't your mama. I don't care whether you live or die. He said when a man goes to war, his brain turns to water and runs out of his ears. And all he has to go on is instinct and the guy to the right and the left of him. He's like, you want some of this, boy, cross the line. And at 14, I mean, you think you're invincible, right? I mean, you still bounce when you fall, your bones heal up the way it's supposed to. You don't make that ridiculous noise when you bend over to pick something up. That's how you know when you get old, man, when you make that noise. I think back in them days, you could fall off a building or get hit by a car and get up and shake it off. I can't even sit down without throwing muscle out of whack these days, man. It's kind of ridiculous, but pride keeps me going, I guess. So, this was my first life lesson with Billy. This is the first thing he ever taught me, and it stands true to this very day. All right? When we crossed that line, he's like, everybody on your faces. Give me 300 push-ups for being late. And that's not a lot of push-ups, but if you got some guys who aren't in shape, you're going to be paying the man. And my first life lesson with Billy was, if I tell you to be somewhere at a certain time, you're always 15 minutes early, not at 4:30. 15 minutes early is on time, and everybody in here knows what I'm talking about. Everything changes, always changes, usually changes overnight. Leave work at the end of the day, you come in the next morning, you're like, guess what, turn 2, overnight, this is what happened. If you're that person that always comes in the door at 4:30, you're the weakest link in the chain. You're a problem. You're actually a cancer. In our community, you'll get somebody killed. I don't show up on time, the brief goes down, whatever it is, we go out and assault a target, and I didn't get the new word. I was supposed to go left instead of right. I was supposed to go up the stairs instead of into the backyard, whatever it was. And my buddy gets his head blown off his neck, well then that's on me. And when people die, it doesn't stop right there, it's a ripple effect, because they got family members who love them, mothers and brothers and sisters and all that. And if I'm any kind of man, I'm going to be like, hey, your boy died because I couldn't be on time. I don't know what I was doing, can't even remember. Watching TV, reading a magazine, but he's dead, and I can't change that. There's absolutely no reason why you should ever be late to anything unless you are dead. And if you're dead, somebody will check in for you. You can guarantee that. So we started pushing the deck, and we get to about 100 or something. And eventually what happened was we started to teeter-totter. Some of us were going down while the rest of us were coming up. And he would stop what you're doing. He goes, as a team, you're going to go down together, and you're going to come up together. You're going to live together, and you're going to die together. You're not a team. Start over. Start over, start pushing them out again, get to whatever number it was. Started to teeter-totter. He's like, I guess you didn't hear what I said. I said you're going to go down together and come up together, live together and die together. You're not a damn team. Start over. And if it wasn't that phrase coming out of his mouth, the only other thing was profanity. And he was hitting us with the hose and cussing us and kicking us, whole 9 yards. About a couple hours go by, we're trying to mash these push-ups out. We get to about 1. We're all doing the chicken neck and the one-arm dip and the mountain climber. He got so sick and tired of us, he's like, look, get off my property. You're a disgrace. He used to grade us with percentages. He's like, I won't even get into all that. We don't need to go down that rabbit hole, but he's like, leave, go home. And when you get home, I want you to walk right up to your daddy and punch him in the mouth and tell him to start over because he screwed up on you. He goes, as we were running out of there, he was saying, if you want to do this again tomorrow, show up on time. Don't ever waste my time. It's the only thing I can't control. That was a big life lesson he taught us. It was like, always wear a watch. He's like, the one thing I can't control is time. And I'm not going to waste 1 second of it on you. He goes, because there's one certainty in this world for all of us. We're all going to die eventually. You can sidestep it, prolong it, do whatever it is you think you want to do to get around it, but eventually the Reaper's going to show up to the door. And once you accept the fact that you're going to die, you'd be surprised how much life you could actually live. Don't ever fear death. It's coming. Just put it off to the side. So I showed up the next day on time. And I did that from the time I was 14 years old to the time I finished college. I was never late again, not one time, not ever. And as I grew from a boy into a young man, into an adult, into a grown man, I was 18 years old, I was a grown man. And my body changed and I got stronger mentally, physically, emotionally, all that. Everything he did to us evolved and changed as well. I remember one of the last workouts I was doing with him, if you think last workout was going to be a cake and a hug, and like, I'm so proud of you, go do your deal. That ain't how that goes down. So, yeah, every couple weeks he'd have us running down the freeway. We'd carry a telephone pole, and he'd follow us in his vehicle. And we'd drop the pole on his kid's head. Split his head open, he rolled down in the ditch. So we went down there to pick him up, we put the log down, and Billy got out screaming and yelling at us. We were supposed to keep that log up and pick that kid up. So he's like, get in the lean and rest, get in the push-up position and pay attention. He's like, open your mouth and shut your mouth and open your ears. He's like, got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Close 1 and open 2. He's like, I'm going to tell you something I ain't never told you before. I'm going to tell you why I do the things that I do to you, so listen up. He goes, I sit up at night and think of sadistic things to throw at you. I purposely do things to you that I know you can't pass. He's like, you ain't the Hulk. That's what he always tells us. He's like, you're a human being, you're weak. You bleed just like everybody else. He's like, I'm waiting to see when I hit you, no matter how hard I hit you. If I hit you, knock you stupid. If I hit you, knock you down. If I hit you and knock you out. When you come to, when you shake it off, if you come at me like a rampaging beast, or if you quit. Because if you quit right here, you'll be a quitter for the rest of your life. Go home and brush your teeth with a pistol. That's what he tells us. 14, I don't know if he says that, but... I took all the knowledge, everything he ever gave me, and all the men in my life and the women in my life gave me, and left and joined the military. I joined the Navy. For those of you who aren't familiar, Navy stands for Never Again Volunteer Yourself. Because when I got in there, I was like, wait a minute, man. I don't want to be in the regular Navy, which there's nothing wrong with being in the regular Navy. I just knew what I was born to do. I wasn't a doctor, I'm not a lawyer, a Wall Street guy, a teacher, anything like that. I'm a gunfighter. Plain and simple, man. I don't ever make any apologies for that. Just plain and simple, that's what I am. So I had to pass a series of tests to qualify to go to a school to become a Navy SEAL. And that school is referred to as BUDS training. It stands for Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training. Any man and every man on this planet who's a Navy SEAL has to go through that schoolhouse. It's in sunny Coronado, California. I'm sure there's some people out here who know a Navy SEAL. You know, some guy got a job at your place because he's a SEAL. He said he was. Your neighbor said he's a Navy SEAL. If he didn't go to school out there, he's lying to you. All right? You need to fire him, quit hanging out with him, or call me up and I'll burn his damn house down for you. So, I'll talk briefly about BUDS training. It's one of those kind of deals where I hated every second of it, so I really don't even like to remember it. But it's 3 phases. First phase, second phase, and third phase, all right? First phase, 12, 13 weeks. You think I should know that since I'm a SEAL and I get up and talk about it, but it's been a long time. First phase is just a gut check, all right? It's a beat down of mental and physical torture. Make sure you have what it takes to go into follow-on training. Second phase is our dive phase. What separates us from the other special forces is our ability to work underwater. Over 73% of the globe is covered in it. We can be anywhere on it 24 hours. It's our little mantra. I was actually a scuba diver before I got into the SEAL teams. I'm sure there's some divers out here, you know what I'm talking about. 60 feet, 60 minutes, looking at the pretty blue water and the fish. You probably got somebody right there beside you that you can see. Everything's hunky-dory. A normal dive for us is usually 4 to 6 hours. That's in the pitch black water, can't see your hand in front of your face kind of deal. My longest dive while I was in the SEAL teams was 10 hours and 47 minutes. I actually fell asleep and woke up underwater twice. Don't ever do that. I know there's some guys in here who be like, oh, I'm gonna try that one. Yeah, don't do that. All right. And I always knew in the back of my head I was probably going to go to hell for some of the stuff I did. And you think, you growing up, religion, hell's hot. It's not. It's cold water. And when we woke up, I was like, hey,